Russia has issued its sharpest warning, yet against the Western-backed coalition of the willing, branding it a dangerous escalation bloc and a direct military threat to Europe and Russia. Moscow says the declaration signed in Paris by Britain, France, and Ukraine has nothing to do with peace and everything to do with continued militarization and confrontation.
The declaration is not aimed at achieving a lasting peace and security, but rather at continuing the militarization, escalation, and further conflict aggravation.
Russia says the real core of the document is the deployment of a multinational force on Ukrainian territory under the pretext of rebuilding Ukraine's armed forces and deterring Russia, warning that any Western military units, bases, storage facilities, or infrastructure established inside Ukraine will be treated as foreign intervention and legitimate military targets for the Russian armed forces.
The deployment of military units and the setting up of military facilities, storages, and other Western infrastructure on Ukrainian territory will be qualified as foreign intervention that directly threatens the security of Russia and other European countries. All such units and facilities will be considered as legitimate military targets for the Russian armed forces.
Moscow also accused the coalition of forming what it called a true axis of war, as Western leaders confirmed military deployment plans in Paris, with British Prime Minister Keir Starmer saying Britain and France will establish military hubs inside Ukraine after a ceasefire and build protected facilities for weapons and equipment.
Following a ceasefire, the UK and France will establish military hubs across Ukraine and build protected facilities for weapons and military equipment to support Ukraine's defensive needs.
Starmer said the coalition will also join US-led ceasefire monitoring and binding intervention commitments, while French President Emmanuel Macron confirmed preparations for multinational deployments across air, sea, and land to operate in Ukraine after a ceasefire away from the front line.
Thirdly, we will continue our preparations for the establishment of a multinational force in the air, at sea, and on land to provide reassurance the day after the ceasefire, away from the line of contact. Beyond the work carried out by the British and French chiefs of staff with all other headquarters, I want to highlight the important role of Germany, Italy, and Poland, and also underline the significant role of Turkey, particularly on the maritime side.
Germany is now emerging as a central pillar of this security architecture, with Chancellor Friedrich Merz signaling that Berlin is keeping all military options open after a ceasefire, while positioning Germany as Ukraine's strongest supporter.
Germany will continue to support politically, financially, and militarily. That could mean, for example, that after a ceasefire for Ukraine in a neighboring NATO area, we would have a presence there. And for the type and scope of the German contribution, obviously that has to be decided by the German government or parliament. Once these conditions have been specified and clarified, I would say that for the moment, nothing is excluded.
Russia has reaffirmed that any settlement must include Ukraine's neutrality, demilitarization, and recognition of territorial realities, warning that these goals will be achieved either diplomatically or through continued military operations as Western deployments move closer. And Moscow openly designates foreign forces as legitimate targets.